Good morning, everyone, and welcome. For those of you who I haven't had the opportunity to meet before, my name is Beth Bristol. I'm the Associate Dean of Graduate Administration for the college, and I feel fortunate to be welcoming all of you today to our Graduate Community Forum and acting as today's moderator. I find this session today particularly special because not only are we welcoming our returning students on this chat today, but also our incoming. As we begin our phased return to our physical campuses, and I do mean campuses plural, because as we know, our graduate community spreads across three locations, our Boston campus, our Wellesley campus, and our Miami campus. And it is important for the graduate student body to understand that the college is continuing our commitment to bringing these campuses together. This year, we are exploring new ways to strengthen the Babson community at large for our students and our alumni and bringing those locations together as we always have in the past. And this year it may look a bit different, but we're excited to continue to engage with you. We know that all of you have many questions about how the graduate community will return to campus this fall in regards to your safety, our academic continuity, and the graduate student experience that happens outside of the classroom. We know how important that is for graduate students during their time at Babson. And it's these three areas that came across clearly and thoughtfully in the questions that many of you submitted in advance of today's session. Fortunately, today, I am joined by panelists that are experts in these areas, as I am joined today by President Spinelli, Ken Matsuno, Dean of the College, Sebastian Fixon, Associate Dean of Graduate Programs, Lorian Romito, Senior Director, International Education, Sherry Paulson, our Senior Director, Center Career Development, and Coleen Hines, the Director of Graduate Admissions. And on that note, I'm very excited to welcome President Spinelli, who will be kicking off our forum today. Notably, President Spinelli over 3 decades has worn so many hats for the college. First as a student like all of you, then an alum, a faculty, and leader. I want to welcome President Spinelli and thank him so very much for joining us today. Hi, President Spinelli.
Thank you, Beth. It's a thrill to be talking to a lot of students. It's the joy of the job is interacting with students, and this has been such a fascinating time. I really do want to have a chat with you about it. I've started businesses, I've taken them public, I've sold businesses, I merged 2 universities in Philadelphia, and I've never had a more fascinating experience than what is happening now. And it really is fascinating on a couple of different levels. One, it is a management challenge, and I'm not going to lie to anybody. This has been an incredibly challenging time with variables flying all over the place and things changing on a moment's notice. And the management intensity has been as great as anything I've ever done in my life. But it's also fascinating to be at Babson, because Babson's whole entrepreneurial thought and action, the whole ET&A thing is being played out in real life within our own community. And it's not just Babson, but it's every aspect of our life. So everyone is going through this common experience of facing high levels of ambiguity and a need for action. In essence, yeah.
Yes. No, that is so true, President Spinelli. And you know what? I think students have really seen this come to life in our planning documents on our Babson Together webpage. And what's interesting is the students were sending in questions for today's session. There's so much information there and there's so much to talk about. And we were hoping that maybe you could sort of surmise a little bit the most important things that you're seeing come to life on that webpage and in those documents that they're seeing now.
The key, there are 2 key things that have driven all our decision making. One is the health and safety of the community, and the other one is academic continuity. Although I will say that has expanded because of the experience we had converting to face-to-face and then teaching virtually in the summer, and then converting all our centers and institutes projects to a virtual world and having the combined now virtual and physical iterations of them. This has become academic continuity and improved excellence. So we're looking at this as a big conversion, a big elevation of what the Babson brand is going to deliver. I'll tell you, one of the things that we did over the summer was to create a specialized training program for faculty for virtual learning and hybrid learning. So in the WebEx, and that was led by Dean Matsuno. Fabulous program. Virtually 100% of the faculty participated in these 3 2-week programs with mentors and guides to make sure that we're delivering exceptional education. This is all 70 programs delivered by the centers and institutes were converted to WebEx, so that could be both online and virtual. That's a cache of competencies that I think we're going to be able to leverage well into the future. So health and safety, pretty much we've nailed it so far, and I think you'll see in the plan on our website, the return to campus, a very detailed plan with literally hundreds of experts in a world-class environmental health and environmental health and safety company who was with us the whole time, but hospitals, other consultants, other colleges and universities, to create this comprehensive plan, a testing regimen, a monitoring regimen that has been deeply practiced and put in place at the college. So I'm feeling really good about the health and safety, and I'm feeling even better about the academic continuity and the excellence.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate that, and we're so glad that you could speak to that high level, and we're fortunate that some of our panelists will be diving into greater detail in our chat this afternoon. But because I have you first on deck, I am going to ask you, a tough question, because we know that we've been frequently asked by our students, will there be any adjustment to tuition based on these changes for the fall? And we would love for you to sort of address that before we get started today.
Yeah, they pay me to answer the tough questions.
Right.
Don't take the job if you don't want to answer the tough questions. I took the job. No, I really do get it. I understand the concern. What I'm saying is that we have invested literally millions of dollars to enhance the education. I think that there is a comprehensive learning system that is moving Babson into a higher level of delivery. And those costs are embedded, and I think that the value is increased. When I look at pricing, value pricing is how I generally like to look at it. I think the value is higher today than it was yesterday. I think the value of my degree is going to be better because of this experience than it is before it. So we do not have a plan to adjust pricing at the school.
Great. Thank you so much, President Spinelli. And now I think I'm going to continue our conversation with our panelists. It's important for students on the line to understand today that a tremendous effort is being made for the academic experience, and a significant investment has been made, as President Spinelli just articulated. But I think now we're going to move to Dean Matsuno, who's really the mastermind behind some of these activities. And he can speak a little bit to we know that our Babson faculty are always engaged in continuous learning and learning more about their pedagogical practices and curriculum development. So that's something that we do routinely. But this year, in light of the current circumstances, we are probably going to have to adjust a little bit and do some new learnings this summer in different ways. So Dean Matsuno, I'm wondering, can you speak a little bit to what's going on with our faculty this summer as they prepare to welcome our students back this fall in particular?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Beth. Adjusting a little bit is an understatement.
Right.
It's a lot of adjustments and the big adjustments. But the interesting part is that the faculty took that interesting adjustments as a fun project, and we are really upbeat about it. My name is Ken Matsuno. I'm the dean of the college. As you can tell, I don't carry Eastern Massachusetts accents, but I have been at Babson for the last 24 years. And in fact, for all those years, I have mostly taught in the MBA program. So I know the modules, I know the evening program, I know the blended program. So I know all of those 24 years. So I know Babson, and I want to talk to you about the investments we have been making this spring and summer on two fronts: faculty and technology. First, the faculty preparation. We have about 200 full-time faculty members teaching both graduate and undergraduate program. And this summer, nearly all faculty members, to be precise, 94% of them, to be precise, participated in a 2-week training program. Some of us took it more than once, and the training program enrolled a total of 276 faculty and staff members across 3 2-week sessions, and beginning on June 8th. In fact, now is the session 3, and then 85 faculty members are doing it right now. And I understand that many schools offer some kind of training programs to their faculty, but I have never heard of any schools where 94% of their faculty participated in the training program. So it's not only about the participation rate, we are impressed, but our program is really superb. Why? Because we designed our program by using the feedback from the faculty teaching experience survey from spring. And based on those results, we put the highest priority on online learning pedagogy and course design and technology skills. And not only the faculty, but we listened to the student learning experience survey results. And some of you remember those survey questions as well. What are the areas that the faculty can improve? The ratio of synchronous and asynchronous materials, the use of virtual office hours and discussion groups and formats of quizzes and exams and so forth. Those are the things, specific things that we actually are working on to improve. So those are all parts of the new lineup, the courses that we offer, whether that is hybrid or online. We are in session 3 of the training program, and so we are also getting ready to teach inside the classrooms. We are excited about coming back to the class, and we can't really wait to get into the physical space that many of you know, what we call Olding Hall. We will have the inspection tours of classroom environments and setups very soon. And we will also do practice runs of the classes. You know, the faculty members do practice runs, inside the classroom, and we are giddy about it. So you can imagine how excited we are. The classes this fall are different from the emergency escape we did in spring 2020. We are prepared to teach the courses that are redesigned from the ground up, whether the course is delivered, hybrid, or online. Another area I want to update is the technology. Very briefly, our investments in technology is significant. We made approximately $3 million investments in technology upgrades. We have got new big screen monitors and new and additional microphones and those creepy cameras that follow you and then when you speak, right? And we got those cameras and then focus on whoever the speakers are. So all in all, our faculty are excited to meet the students again in the fall. And but please remember, one important difference between Babson and other schools. That is, the concept of learning at Babson is really based on the idea of collaborative engagement by the students and faculty, right? In other words, learning is not something that the faculty give to the students and students wait for receiving. That's not Babson way. It's something that both faculty and students contribute and learning from each other and together making things happen. So it's by using a marketing term, it's a co-creation process. So we are really excited and waiting for you, and thank you for listening. And campus is beautiful. I happen to be here on campus today. We are looking forward to seeing you on beautiful campus. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Dean Matsuno. I know our students were really excited to hear about all of our continued investment in our faculty, and we'll be excited to see you guys back in the classroom and online. So a few weeks ago, I actually, in collaboration with many stakeholders on campus, sent out some information via emails regarding the in-classroom academic experience for our students. As our students embarked on, as all of you embarked on the registration process, you were trying to navigate these sort of new nuances of the academic formats that will be happening in the classroom. And we're very fortunate to be joined by my colleague, Professor Sebastian Fixen, who's the Associate Dean of Graduate Programs for the college. And he is going to be talking a little bit today about some of your questions around what is that experience going to be like across these new modalities? And also, what is that class presence going to be like, and how is it all really going to work and come together? So I'm going to pass the microphone, the virtual microphone, over to Sebastian, to Professor Fixon.
Thank you very much, Beth, and welcome all of you who join us here at 11 o'clock Boston time for this get-together. Before I answer Beth's questions, I want to add a small anecdote about what Dean Mizuno just said, because I am in the third cohort he mentioned in taking the online training practice course. And just last night I was engaged. So we're taking these courses as students, and our charge is to develop new learning materials. And in that sense, we are sorted into groups. And last night, I had a very interesting conversation in the online discussion board with my colleagues, some of which are very experienced online teachers. And the question was that we debated was what the right proportion of asynchronous and synchronous activities are, and why, and what role pedagogies play. So I can tell you the course itself is fairly intense and very in-depth, and lives both from theory of the course designers as well as the practical experience of the colleagues in the room, so to speak. So it's very exciting, and I'm learning a lot, I can tell you that. So just I wanted to add this tidbit from someone who's in the trenches right now in this process. My name is Sebastian Fixon. I've, just as Dean Mizuno, do not sport a Boston accent, but I have been at Babson for 12 years. And my teaching area is in innovation and design, so I'm very interested in everything new, that's for sure. For the last year, I'm the associate dean, and now, Beth, I come to the point to answer your question. But let me say that the graduate school serves in a series of populations, right? So we have across different programs, full-time students, part-time students, specialized in MBAs in various formats, as well as specialized master's programs. The great thing of that is that you meet in elective courses different people, but it also means that we are trying to address the needs of a variety of aspects of these populations. Now, on the delivery format, they're on the high level, basically two different categories, if you will, right? The first one is a fully online that covers about a fifth of our courses. The vast majority of those are synchronous. So when you sign up for these courses, you will see that they still have a dedicated day and time in the calendar, and that is on purpose. And only very tiny portions are mostly asynchronous. The vast majority of our courses, however, falls under the hybrid label. And what this really means is that we're trying two things at the same time, right? We're trying to maximize the opportunity to interact with faculty in the room, while at the same time allowing online access, remote access to the learning experience. In the development over the summer, we arrived at sort of three subtypes of courses. The first one we label internally a split course. In other words, the idea is that a portion of the students is in the classroom. How many they are is actually determined by the assessment process that we went through, that maintaining social distances, how many seats, what's the room capacity once we account for the necessary distance between all the people. But let's say that portion is filled, and then another group may join online. An alternative version, and which one is chosen, will to a large degree depend on the pedagogical reasoning behind it, might be a small group. So the 3 hours class might be split in the middle, that one half in a smaller portion meets with the faculty for the first hour and a half, and then the second group meets in the second hour and a half, and in the opposing time there might be some asynchronous activity. And then some of you know we have the blended and intensive course formats that generally stay the way they are. However, the face-to-face portions are now also designed in a hybrid model so that they're accessible both from an in-class perspective as well as from an online perspective. Now, in the lead up to today, some of you asked the question, well, what does it mean for my course that I want to take a specific course with a specific faculty? Obviously, I can't give you the answer for every single course and every student today, but let me walk you through the process. So right now we're in the process of mapping courses to rooms, right? But essentially, the three variables determine what the model will be. One is the enrollment in each course. Second, the room capacity after accounting for social distancing requirements, and the pedagogy of the actual course. You can imagine a finance course with lots of Excel sheet work may look different and require different pedagogy than some leadership course. And the fourth element is obviously a student's preference. However, there might be some constraints. So for example, imagine let's take a course that has, let's say, 40 students enrolled, and after de-densification, the room capacity says, well, we can have 20 students in the room. That then means that we probably have to come up with a regime where we define first A through M, first letter of last name or something like that, will meet on Tuesdays, and the other half is joins online, and maybe the next class session it's in the reverse. If individual students, let's say, prefer for work reason or for other reasons to have a higher share of online attendance and share that with the faculty, that may open up classroom seats for the other students. Those details we have to work on once we get closer. The general process we envision is that once we have the room mapping done and the faculty knows in which room they are assigned with their course, that they will begin reaching out to the enrolled students to survey preferences and figure out what the exact model is in detail. So those are the experience you can expect between in-class presence and attending online. Let me say two more things before I hand it back to you, Beth.
Sure.
First, just to note that the clubs and centers also working very hard to design co-curricular experiences. They will look different than in the past. Many have a more higher online or virtual component, but there will be plenty of activities to engage as well. And then lastly, let me invite all of you sort of in the spirit of co-creation and what the challenge that President Spinelli set out for us to get us all on a higher level, which means a continuous improvement process, right? And I mentioned at the outset that I am passionate about innovation and design. So I envision in August and throughout the semester various avenues to invite all students to help us improve and develop new ideas and opportunities to elevate further what we are doing. And that can take organized formats. So I'm envisioning sometime in August to run a design thinking workshop on specific questions now that we know, for instance, what our constraints in the buildings are. But there's also an invitation for an open, for continuous information stream. I'm looking into creating feedback mechanism that we can use to keep our learning process alive. So let me stop there. I'm really looking forward to seeing all of you on campus, online in the near future, and I'm sure I speak to all of our faculty. Thank you, Beth.
Great. Thank you so much, Sebastian. You know, Sebastian and I really, just to piggyback on some of his comments today, are really committed to collaborating with all of you as you join us back on campus this fall. It's important to note that we represent a whole host of graduate services staff members that I know you've been engaging with remotely over the summer about your registration process and how you're going to come back to campus and your academic plans, and with our life and leadership team around different activities that we'll be hosting with our clubs. And this is that point in the summer where we're really getting excited because we're going to continue to push out information to all of you guys, and we are excited for the continued dialogue in all of these areas. So thanks so much, Sebastian, for really diving into sort of that academic classroom experience side. But I think it's probably appropriate for us to switch gears a little bit, because in our extensive planning process over the past couple months, yes, academic continuity is of utmost importance, but alongside that is the importance of our campus community's health and safety. I know that we have shared quite a bit of information with all of you regarding protocols and policies and our plans protocols and policies that you've seen on our Return to Campus website. But these plans continue to evolve because every day new data and guidance is becoming available to us. And I think we're really fortunate to have Dean Ward, who has certainly been in the trenches of these conversations over the past few months. And he's really going to dive into right now some health and safety protocols that have been implemented for the fall. A lot of you have asked questions around what does it mean when you hear words like quarantine and testing policies? And how do we learn more about this? So he's going to speak a little bit to that right now. So Dean Ward, I pass the microphone over to you.
Thank you very much, Beth. I'm Larry Ward. I'm the Vice President for Learner Success and the Dean of Campus Life. And my fundamental responsibility at the college is to partner with Ken and Sebastian and others on this call to ensure a level of integration and support for all learners across levels, and a sense that we have a intentionality in our living learning environment. Let me, of course, say welcome to all of our new students who've been admitted to Babson College. You all are joining not only a first-rate graduate school, but an absolute high-quality community. Our reopening plan, Babson Together, I know many of you have read it and reviewed it. I can tell by the quality and the number of questions that you've posed. So thank you first for reading that plan. I want to first start with explaining that there will be a comprehensive onboarding training. We are presenting a lot of information about our health and safety protocols and navigating the campus experience in our next normal. And so in early August, you'll get a link to a program that will outline our health, safety, protocols, talk about navigating this campus in terms of the classroom experience, egress and ingress, talking about finding academic success in a classroom in a virtual or an online environment. And so we'll lay out those expectations. And I share that to say that if you've missed something in my comments over the next few minutes, know that there are other ways in which you can get this very critical information. Let me move on to, I think, what is perhaps the most important part of our plan, and that is the notion of individual and collective responsibility for this reopening plan. Keeping our campus safe means that students have to commit to wearing face covering and hand washing and good public health hygiene. There will be an expectation about maintaining physical and social distance within and beyond the classroom. That students will be expected to complete via a mobile app, daily symptoms monitoring and checking. And we will also offer surveillance testing, which I'll talk a little bit about in just a few moments. There is a collective and an individual responsibility to keep us safe. You will continue to hear this from me and others to talk about your role in keeping this campus safe. One of the things that we know for sure, and that we have certainly learned since the middle of March, is that routine things like face covering, hand washing, and social distance are really, really critical to keeping each other safe. And we all have a responsibility to do that. Some of you have asked about quarantine, and quarantine means that a period of time, typically 14 days, where people monitor any symptoms or look for symptoms. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts has mandated that any student who is returning to a Boston school from outside of a New England state, New York, or New Jersey, quarantine for 14 days. And what we are asking is that students quarantine at home prior to traveling to campus. And before the start of classes, all of our students will be required to go through what we call asymptomatic testing, mass testing. So we will be testing our students, our faculty, and our staff, those who regularly interact on our campus. And again, we have learned an awful lot about the virus and about safety protocols, and we know that testing is really important. One of the things that it does is not only does it potentially identify any asymptomatic carriers of COVID, but it also increases confidence level, right? It increases a confidence level that you can return to the campus, and anyone who may test positive can be quickly identified. We have invested, as President Spinelli said, millions of dollars, and part of that investment is also in contact tracing. So we are able to have protocols in place for testing and for quickly identifying any close contacts and isolating issues before they expand to the rest of the campus. So this is one of the multiple layers of health and safety protocols that we have. We've also spent a significant amount of time with environmental health and engineering, which is our industrial hygienist firm that President Spinelli referenced. And we have gone through every aspect of our campus operations, from airflow to how people circulate safely through buildings. So identifying spaces on campus that allow students to congregate in low numbers, to be able to dine safely, et cetera. So all of those opportunities are laid out in our reopening plan. Let me just end with just a few thoughts about why all of this matters, because I think we've spent a significant amount of time presenting you with a lot of information about the what and the how that you will return to campus, or for those who are coming to campus for the first time. But I think it's important to spend a little bit of time just talking about why this matters, why students should return, or why students should begin at Babson this fall. I've talked about what we've learned about the virus over the last 4.5 months, but we've also learned an awful lot about students, and that this pandemic has affected each of us, albeit in different ways. For many of you, you are concerned not only about yourself, many of you are parents or caring for family members, and so it has been a challenging environment to operate in. And we know that the virus has affected many people negatively. Maintaining a routine has been difficult. People have struggled to get physical activity, and they've struggled to feel connected or they feel isolated. Understand that graduate students are in fact the lifeblood of the Olin School. And we know that your connections to each other, to your faculty, and to this community are an essential part of your graduate education, your professional growth and career development, your satisfaction with Babson, and your sense of place and purpose in this world. We believe that that matters, and that's why we believe that a comprehensive, safe, and thoughtful approach to reopening our campus also matters. So I'll pause there and turn it back to you, Beth.
Larry, thank you so much for those words. I think you just hit on so many important points for our students, because what we keep hearing in your questions and comments is about the continued engagement of our community during these unprecedented times. And I hope what you're hearing in our conversation today is how Babson is purposely planning, but also will be engaging you in these continued conversations so that you can really tailor this experience that is so individual, but also so uniting as a group. And Dean Ward's comments are a wonderful segue into my colleague, Sherry Paulson, who's our Senior Director of Career Services. Sherry has been everywhere over the past 4 months with our students. She has been on virtual sprints. She has been posting information to LinkedIn. She has been talking to our external companies and community to really figure out how is the new normal going to be for both our students that are exploring career opportunities, and both for our external companies that want to engage with our students in these unique times. So I'm going to pass it over to Sherry, and she's going to do a deep dive into all of these most critical areas for graduate students. Sherry?
Right. Thank you, Beth, very much. And welcome to those that will be new to Babson, and also our 2021 MBAs and working professionals. It has been a wild ride, and lots of learnings have occurred. And I want to share with you what came from those learnings so we can do continuous improvement, as well as what are the expectations for the fall and for the spring. And the first one to start with is something that Larry Ward shared, is we feel very strongly that we want to have you have a great experience, but be connected with us and have relationships. Our biggest concern that in mid-March, when all of a sudden we all went remote, was not that we couldn't handle the virtual experience, because we were really ready for that. It was how could we have continual relationships with our 2021 and working professionals at the time, so that there was no gap, that they had momentum, that they felt connected to the school. And what was amazing is that we had 98% more engagement when we measured April, May, and June connectivity for appointments than we did a year ago. 98% more engagement in these difficult times. So maybe you're saying, how did that happen? I think the major thing is we already had relationships. So when we, at my team, reached out and said, we are here, this is how it's going to work, we were able to make that happen. But we also created a program as a pilot that really took off. And Beth was mentioning the word, these sprints, these virtual sprints. We knew that our students wanted to have something that was a regular feeling where they would be connected with their peers and have career advisory support at the same thing. So we created these job search teams, job search sprints, very small groups of students, 5, 6, with a facilitated advisor from my team that met at least 4 times regularly. So there was accountability. We started with a pilot of 6. We ended up having 20 sprints that are still going on today. 20 sprints where we touched about 120 students. And those students that were looking for internships and for full-time roles did quite well that were in the sprints, even in difficult times. So what will we learn from that going into the fall is we know for our returning 2021 MBAs, we're going to be running more sprints for that group. And for the new students coming on board, there will be small learning groups with each other, facilitated with one of our advisors. So continuity and momentum and those relationships, we did not want to drop the ball. And clearly we did not drop the ball. And that was a pilot that we felt that went really, really well. I popped out of a consortium event today to join this group. And the number one thing the other schools were saying is their engagement dropped significantly with the students when this hit. And we were really pleased, and I didn't shout this out to brag about this to the others, but we were really pleased that that didn't happen on our end. So these sprints made a huge, significant difference. What we also learned is we were ready for our spring career fair, and then COVID hit. And we said, we are not dropping our spring career fair, which usually has 25, 30 employers and has lots of students come to learn about internships and full-time jobs. So we said, we're going to turn this into a virtual career fair. And we networked quickly with a lot of schools that may have touched base on some of these firms. And we brought in a firm and we did a virtual career fair where we had 25 employers in virtual booths. About 150 students came and over 450 chats where they could be talking to these employers. And we made that happen in 3 weeks. We learned a lot from that experience, from listening to the employers, listening to the students. And now going forward, we're looking at, we have time now to be looking at a range of these virtual products to see what are the best ones. What has progressed with these virtual products? It's not just chat. Now there's a chance to have video and face-to-face interaction. So what can people expect in the fall? We're going to revisit and bring in virtual career fairs with a group called EFMD Global, where we contracted with them in the spring and they will be with us in the fall. And there's 9 more virtual career fairs that our students are going to be eligible to participate. The fall semester is all about global firms with US opportunities. Those students that went to the sessions in the spring were global firms with opportunities all over the world. And if you weren't looking for roles all over the world, those students that participated had a great chance to really learn, how do I best succeed in a virtual career fair? So those will be returning in the fall, and there'll be 9 sessions starting mid-September that go through mid-November. And we will be focusing on ways that you can be as successful as possible to be able to take advantage of these very large global firms. And there's also entrepreneurial firms that will be joining in these sessions as well. So we're excited about that. We're excited to continue with a virtual tool for what we're known as for our spotlights, a chance to be able to network and mingle by industry with different employers. So we're going to use it in a virtual capability. You may have read or heard about our Connects, which is we partner with the Alumni and Friends Office. And the first one out of the gate will be Boston. And we're going to be using a virtual tool for that as well, where we usually have a keynote or a panel of speakers and about 150 to 250 alums that gather. And we're going to have them in and out in speed networking kind of capabilities. That's going to happen also in the fall. And then in the spring, we'll do more spotlights. And we're going to have our spring career fair that will be done virtually as well. We're looking at virtual tours instead of a classic trek where you go visit companies. We're going to have those be done virtually with our employers. So now you might be wondering, what are the employers saying and what's happening with employers back on in terms of hiring? We have started surveys to our employers to get a sense of what their appetite is for hiring in the fall and also in the spring. We just kicked off the survey 2 days ago to get this started. And our big name employers are saying we are ready to play, such as Biogen and AB InBev and others. We are ready to play, but it's going to look different because we can't come see you either. So they are getting really good at using the virtual tools for screening and for interviewing, which means we want to make sure you're up to speed of how to do that as best as possible. Many of you are very comfortable using virtual tools, but there's a difference on how to get your pitch and your personality across virtually and your differentiators that we want to really hone in on and make a big difference. So things have changed, but the big events that we do have not changed. It's just the mode of how we're going to be doing it. And we are encouraged that employers are enthusiastic about making this happen. I think what was the hardest of when it hit was for internships, because it hit right in the middle of when the hiring typically happens for 2021s for interns. And that was March and April. So I know with Beth and others, people really worked hard to come up with additional projects, additional courses, Studio B with Sebastian, that would help round this out. When we look at the full-time employment cycle, this may surprise you, but when we looked at the numbers of how our 2020 students that graduated are doing compared to a year ago, we are ahead year to date for those students getting full-time jobs as compared to a year ago. So there are jobs and there are needs. And our Babson students are taught how to be entrepreneurial and find where the opportunities are. So employers are going to open up their gates. We're not sure the timing, right? We can only control what we can control, but what's going to happen in supply chain? What's going to be happening in analytics and marketing? And those are the areas where a lot of our students are flocking to. So we're really encouraged about that. And my final comment is, one of the things that's going to carry over that we learned from this epidemic is that more engagement with alumni, the better. And when we knew it was rocky for internships, we partnered even more closely with our Alumni and Friends Office and the College Advisory Board and advisors and board members to say, help us, a cry for help. Help us open up doors for internships and full-time jobs. And we got a remarkable response, and we were able to help with more opportunities than ever for our students in that way. And when Beth talks about, I'm kind of virtually everywhere, we have opened up more doors for our alums with a deep dive enhanced alumni career offering so that we can help those alums that may have been impacted with job loss or fear of their jobs. And we know when we support our alums, particularly in difficult times, they're going to give back and help with our students. And in 6 weeks, we've only launched this in 6 weeks, we've had over 300 alum participants in some of the programming. And I know those alums are going to turn around and say, now how can I help our students? And that makes a huge difference. So net, I will take a breath, net. We are excited to welcome you. Will it feel differently? Yes. Can we control the market? We can't control the market, but we are very confident from what we've learned that we can keep enhancing to help you have a great experience. So thank you for that.
Sherry, thank you so much. And what excites me so much about your comments, and I hope for our students, is that those legacy CCD events and those signature events that you're known for are continuing. You're just pivoting in what the environment is requiring in some virtual component. And I think it's really exciting for students to know that that is just going to be this continuing experience with a little bit of a different way. So I can't wait to see what you guys do, and I'm following you on LinkedIn and all the emails, and read their emails. I know you guys are getting a lot, but read the emails from our Center of Career Development. Okay, switching gears a little bit. Thank you again, Sherry, for your comments. But we talk a lot about our global community here at Babson. Our international students bring such diverse perspective and backgrounds to our community and make Babson such a special place. Unfortunately, COVID-19 has created some unique challenges for these particular members of our community. And our Glavin team has been working incredibly hard day and night to monitor the changes that have been coming out in the news and then translating that and pushing out information to our students that are impacted by this. We're fortunate to be joined by Lorian Romito, our Senior Director of International Education. And I'm going to turn the mic over to Lorian and ask her if she could give us an update on where things stand and highlight some of these things that are happening in the world that affect that affect our students that are international and just global education, big picture. Lorian?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Beth.
Thanks.
If I wasn't gray before, the whole ISSS team probably has a few more gray hairs after the past 2 weeks we've had. I just want to start by saying, especially for our new students, that the Glavin Office of International Education supports Babson's global learning opportunities, which include both education abroad programs and learning opportunities, as well as our international student and scholar services. I'm going to start with some information for our international student population, because I recognize that the uncertainty with the changing of the U.S. immigration regulations feels like from one day to another has caused a lot of stress and confusion for our international student community. I know that on this call, we both have new and returning students. And so I want to make sure that I do my best to articulate when I'm speaking about information related to new students and when I'm speaking about information related to our returning students, as it can differ. I want to first specifically address, as Beth mentioned, the court ruling that overturned the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's immigration rule on July 6th. Yay! And that would have adversely and was going to adversely impact our international students. Babson spoke out against that rule and signed an amicus brief through the President's Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration in an effort to prevent the government from enforcing the DHS rules. We were proud to have joined hundreds of colleges and universities across the country in advocating for international students. And Tuesday's decision by a Boston court to rescind the fall semester guidance came as a big relief, and I'm sure many of you on the call are joining me in that collective sigh of relief.
For sure.
I want to tell you that the overturned announcement, which references that previous March policies will remain in effect for the fall semester. And so I'll get into what that actually means for new and continuing students to the extent that I am able at this time. So the International Student and Scholar Services team in the Glavin office is still awaiting additional information directly from the Student and Visitors Exchange Program, or also known as the CEVP, for how its impact, how this overturn impacts both our new and continuing international students. And we will communicate details as soon as we have them. And we will also be posting this information on the Babson Together Return to Campus page. One update that I can share is that the mass reissuance of Form I-20s that they were calling for is likely no longer needed, which is another sigh of relief for my ISSS team. So continuing students who do not have a valid travel signature can request a new Form I-20. Otherwise, you can travel to the US on your current Form I-20. New students should request their initial Form I-20 as soon as possible through the incoming international student website, and do that as soon as you possibly can so you can get moving on your visa application. So other aspects of the March CEVP guidance that we are still waiting on but are hopeful about for our international students who are in the US or plan on coming to the US in the fall, we are hopeful that you will have increased flexibility on choosing your learning modalities. For continuing international students who, for various reasons, may not be able to return to the US, of course, you will still be able to make progress towards your degree requirements with Babson Online. We are also very hopeful that the July 14th court ruling will allow returning international students to maintain their immigration status, even if outside of the US and enrolled in 100% online courses, as long as it's a full course load, of course. Again, we know that the back and forth of changes of the immigration guidance is confusing, and the ISSS team is doing their absolute best to be communicating frequently to ensure that you understand the most recent rules and how it might impact your specific situation. But if you need more clarity, please don't hesitate to reach out to our team so that we can help you. Moving on a bit, we've received a lot of questions from our incoming international students, and I don't blame you, about your ability to secure a visa in time for the start of the fall semester. So one thing that we are cautiously optimistic about was a recent announcement from the U.S. Department of State that U.S. embassies and consulates are beginning to offer routine visa services, depending on the local conditions, and that was as of July 15th. So of course, things will vary from country to country. So we recommend that you pay close attention to your local U.S. embassy or consulate, both for their reopening procedures, as well as how to request an earlier visa appointment. Babson has created a visa reporting tool for the incoming international student webpage that we hope to collect your visa appointment information and be able to monitor that closely. For our incoming students, you should try to arrive to the US and report to Babson by the start of classes, which for most of the programs is August 31st. If you are unable to arrive by this date, you can begin your courses online from abroad, but you will need to arrive to the US in time to comply with the 30-day immigration reporting deadlines. If that is not possible, you can study with Babson 100% online, both as Dean Mizuno and Professor Fixon outlined for you the different modalities. And then you would enter the US and begin your immigration status for the next term. And I'm sure a lot of you are asking the question, well, what does this mean for my off-campus work authorization eligibility? And how can I take advantage of all the exciting opportunities that Sherry and her team are putting forward? So for continuing students who are in the US, you will continue to be eligible for off-campus employment. So that's CPT or OPT, depending on your program. And based on the March guidance, returning international students who remain outside of the US for the fall semester should be able to continue to be eligible for work authorization, which is new from the initial guidance that came out. So that's great news. So please remember that you can only apply for OPT within the US. And the ISSS hopes to be able to confirm more specific information for students about who are remaining outside of the US and trying to apply for work authorization soon, and we'll get that to you. For incoming students who arrive to the US reporting to Babson within the immigration reporting deadlines, we will start your immigration status for the fall semester, and it will count towards eligibility for off-campus work authorization. We know that this can get confusing very quickly. My head spins when I try to talk about it, and for all these different student populations. So please do not hesitate to reach out to us to talk through your individual situation, and we can cater our answers specifically to your needs and your circumstances. we recognize that there are many variables that you have to consider. So we want to make sure that we are taking that into account when we give you immigration advice. I just want to echo what Beth said. The international students are such an important part of our community, and we're happy and thrilled to be offering different modalities for you to continue learning with Babson. And we think this is a way that we are further amplifying Babson as a global institution. Finally, oops,
I'm sorry. No, I'm so sorry. You finished your last point.
Okay, well, my last point was just related to education abroad opportunities through the Glavin office.
Right, because that was a question that had popped in.
Yes, I saw those questions, and so I wanted to address some of them as well. So as you know, for our returning students, the college made the very difficult decision of suspending education abroad for the fall and winter term. And I know this is disappointing for many of you. I know the opportunity to study abroad is an exciting part of a learning experience. But as we sort of outlined in the beginning of our remarks, health and safety continues to be one of our guiding principles for difficult decision making. And so that was one that we did have to make for the fall and winter term. For spring break and May term education abroad opportunities, we have not yet made a decision at this point. We are closely monitoring the U.S. Department of State, World Health Organization, Center for Disease Control guidance, as well as communicating really closely with our international partners to best understand the evolving coronavirus picture and its impact on global mobility. I just want to close by saying, most importantly, while the college is having to look closely at international travel this year, we have not given up on global learning. The Glavin office and Babson faculty are actively exploring some exciting virtual global learning opportunities for students, and we will be communicating about these in the near future. So please stay tuned. And just to close, Beth, I just want to say that if there are any questions that you have about any of this information, I know it's a lot, please don't hesitate to reach out to the Glavin office. Thank you.
Lorianne, thank you so much. And as Lorianne, we know a lot of these types of questions are very individualized. And after our chat today, when I push this recording out, I'll also highlight all the partner offices that have joined us today so you can reach out and ask those individual questions, because we know they can get complicated and overwhelming. Switching gears, our final mini conversation today is going to be with the director of our graduate missions office, Coleen Hines. This is always a unique time of year where Coleen has to hand over all our new admits over to the academic side of the house, and we sort of have to take you guys away from the friends you've made in admissions so we can, onboard you. But Coleen thought it was important for her to be part of the conversation today because we know that we have some incoming students on the line, and there were some few questions and inquiries around this time of transition from admissions. And so we thought we'd give Coleen the floor for a few minutes just to wrap up some loose ends for us.
Thank you so much, Beth, and thank you everybody for joining us today. I've been really fortunate that I've been able to connect with many of the incoming students over the past weeks and months, and my team is so appreciative of everyone's questions and engagement. I'd also like to just take a moment to thank all of the current students who are on today's webinar, because so many of you have connected with the incoming students through events, through emails, through phone calls over the last few months. And as we prepare to welcome them as our newest members of the community, your outreach has been truly impactful, so thank you. From some of our incoming students, we received a few questions regarding deferrals. And I just wanted to highlight that, as you know, deferral requests were due on or before July 8th. We are so excited for all of the incoming students to join us this fall. And based on all of the great things shared today, we truly hope you're excited to get started on your program as well. We also understand that the opportunity to connect with other students to build your professional network is a major draw of any graduate program. And Babson is known for its tight-knit and supportive community. So we know this year it's on people's minds, especially our incoming students who are new to the community, how many students will be joining the full-time program on campus this fall. And we did receive quite a few questions regarding that. Right now, it's just still too early to say, as we work closely with each student on their respective situations. Right now, we can't be sure how many students will choose to begin remotely versus on campus for the fall semester based on their own individual circumstances. But what we can be sure of, and I think we've been able to showcase today through all of the great work of the partner offices, is a true steadfast commitment to academic continuity, regardless of whether or not you begin in the fall remotely or on campus. We do know there are many students looking forward to being on campus, and there are so many options for these students to connect with each other from wherever they are. And nearly 60% of our confirmed incoming full-time graduate students indicated that they were already in the US, whether as US citizens or current visa holders. And of course, we expect this number to continue to evolve over the coming weeks. I'd also like to highlight that our part-time MBA program is currently on track for its highest fall enrollment in 4 years. And that's an important fact to highlight today, not only for both the full-time and the part-time students who are on today's session, but as our current students on the call know, electives at Babson are open to students across the portfolio of programs. And through this format, you'll be expanding your network and learning and building connections from a broad range of students. And full-time students will have the opportunity to learn side along these working professionals and vice versa. So we're really excited to see how that unfolds, especially this fall semester. As Lorianne pointed out, and as Beth pointed out, we know that there are still so many questions, and many of them are really dependent on students' individual circumstances right now, and we know that they're evolving every day. And so I do encourage any of the incoming students who still have questions to not hesitate to reach out to my team at gradadmissions@babson.edu. We'll be sure to connect you with the appropriate people and hopefully answer any individual questions that you have. But thank you again for your questions today.
Coleen, thank you so much. I know we're just going a little bit over time and we're just about to conclude our session for today, but I just want to extend my warmest thank you to all of the students that have joined this this unique conversation today in this remote space. I want to thank all of our panelists, and I really hope that all of you in the coming days take the time to review the Babson Together website. And then following this chat today, I am going to push out an email with the recording of this information, along with the key stakeholder offices that spoke today, so that you can reach out, engage in conversation, and ask us your questions. Because your comfort and your journey to Babson in the fall is critically important to us. We want to partner with you on that because it's such an exciting time. You know, it's sort of funny as we close here, I'm looking down at President Spinelli because I feel so fortunate that you joined us today, and I sort of feel like you should have the last words of thanks to our students, because I know you're eagerly awaiting for them to join us in the fall on the Babson campus.
Well, thank you. It isn't fair that I get the last word because this really is a team. And I think what you saw today was how a team comes together and finds opportunity and will leverage that opportunity. I can't wait for the year to start and for us to go learn and do.
I can't either. And so on that note, everyone, I'll either see you in Olin Hall at the end of August or I'll see you online. Thank you so very much and have a wonderful afternoon. Bye, everybody.